This is Just Something About Her, a podcast from the Recount.
This week's guest, Phoebe Robinson. Okay, so let's get in it on white saviors. Great segue.
Yeah, let's do it. Roll up these sleeves, baby.
In your book, you talk about your British boyfriend, for the uninitiated, is the British Baekoff. It's just still, right? I mean, it's never not funny. But you talk about the good times and the bad times during 2020, when you all are living together for the first time. And you write, every so often, last summer, I wanted, no needed, to wake up, roll over, and be able to commiserate with another Black person. Share an oh so heavy exhalation with someone who just got it, and BB didn't. So describe what that experience taught you, how you're able to navigate it through last summer.
Yeah, I mean, last summer was truly just a horrible time for the world, There was a lot of police activity, certainly in New York, and so we just see for hours, just police patrolling up and down, or late at night, fireworks going off at 2 or 3 in the morning. A lot of that stuff to sort of keep people awake and anxious. And it was really a tough time, and he certainly... neither of us have ever experienced anything like this in our lifetimes, but I think, him being from the UK and having lived in America, I think at that point, 3.5, maybe 4 years, I think for him, he was just he couldn't believe what was happening. He was just this is unbelievable and horrible. And so he got that on, a human level, but at the end of the day, he could walk outside our apartment building and go, run an errand and not really have to worry about anything because he's a white man. And so it was good for us to just sort of have conversations about it. And I think he was just so smart and just being I don't know exactly what this feels like, and I'm not ever going to fully be able to understand it, but I am here for you whenever you need me. And just sort of having that sort of presence of mind to be I don't have to fix this. I don't have to save the day.
Fix this.
Yeah, and just be I could just listen, and I could just maybe just me just being here and sitting and having this conversation is all you need today. And so I'm happy to do that. And so he just wanted to be present, and I really appreciated that, and I really think that made us so strong last year, just because I'm wow, he gets it. He gets what he needs to be doing right now, and it helps.
So I dare say then what the British Baekoff was providing is allyship, as opposed to performative allyship. So could you describe how you would define performative allyship as sort of in contrast to what BB does?
Yeah, I think, he was very much, he was I don't want to just get on social media and post a caption. He was that just doesn't feel like it's doing anything.
Post an empty black box, for example.
Yeah, I know those empty black boxes. I hated that so much. And I'm I want to be what do you think that is? What do you think that's doing? What do you think that it's helping? It's so absurd. But I just saw him just, he's close with a lot of his friends back from the UK, and sort of, some of their friends were just being oh, this is just, I guess, an American thing. And he was no, it's not. He was we're from the UK. We know there's racism here, and we know that Black people aren't treated well here. And so it was good for him to have these conversations with his friends and with people he knows back home, and sort of educate them instead of asking me to do it. And, he was donating to bail funds, which I thought was of all the things that he wanted to donate to, I was that's so great. We need more money in bail funds. And I think a lot of this performative allyship that we were seeing last summer, where people are making these grand proclamations that we hear you now and we're here to make things better. And I'm just well, that still doesn't explain why your C-suite is all white, or why you don't, once people of color hit sort of a managerial level, they don't get promoted beyond that. And you would see people say all these things, we're going to change things. And then we look now a year later, and it's how different are things really? And I think people just wanted to show they're on the right side of history and that they're not the bad guy. And I'm like, it has to be with your actions. It can't be with a social media post.
I know, like my white female friends were sort of desperate to try to make things okay, particularly if they have black friends. And, you know, it's like, your black friends know you got a little racism in you and they've liked you anyway. Like, it's not news to them, you know?
Yeah.
And they've just, you know, they see it, they love you anyway. You should find a way in your own life, whether it's in your workplace, hiring and more, you know, making sure that you're like hiring, you know, have more diversity, like on all levels. And, you know, there's like things you can do in your own life, but the desperation to post was super cringy.
It was a lot. It was cringy, and it was just like, yeah, and like, oh, the whole like support black businesses thing. Like, I know there was one friend, white girlfriend of mine. She like was like, there's this company called like All Black Everything. And it's like just like sort of like athleisure, cool streetwear.
Uh-huh.
So she was wearing like one of their All Black Everything. It's like all across her chest, and I'm like, That is what you thought we're asking for? For you to buy a sweatshirt that says all black everything? That is insane to me. I'm like, that is not what like, I just had to laugh because I was like, they appreciate the money, but that sweatshirt's not for you. It's really not for you, dog. Just, you know, just go to a restaurant that has a black chef and patronize that. That would be beneficial. Like, educating yourself about racism, but like just wearing black themed clothing as a white lady is not the move, you know? Yeah.
And be aware that like the healthcare system, the education system, like continues to be terrible, and like racism is built into that. And so like try to fix that.
Even I'm constantly having to educate myself. Like, far from knowing everything. And so you have to really be committed to like taking that knowledge and then turning it into action that is actually going to be beneficial to someone else, rather than action that is solely about making you feel good for taking that step. When you look at something like education, I remember when I went to Pratt Institute, I went there 2002 to 2006. 4 years, I only had one black teacher for 4 years in Brooklyn. And it was African American studies, and that was my black teacher. And then all the other teachers, it was predominantly like white male men or white males telling everyone how to write. That is not what education should be. It should not just be white men being like, you must sound like this in order to be a quote unquote good writer.
Right.
And so those are those things where you can like go to your schools and be like, okay, this curriculum needs to be more than just Shakespeare and Beowulf and whatever else.
Classics.
And we need to really... Yeah, the classics that conveniently leave women out, conveniently leave men out, black people out, conveniently leave all races out, all queer people out. Like, we have to do those things that are less sexy. Like, talking about school curriculum isn't hot. Schools formulate so much of how we view the world. And, like, you know, if you don't have any teachers who aren't men, who aren't white men, the messaging is going to be, oh, white men should be the one in charge.
You have good examples in your book of sort of like small changes within our own community. So can you do you want to share some of those?
It's all these sort of just like remembering every single day to sort of look around you and figure out, like, I don't have to defund the police. No one is asking for one single person to defund the police or change the healthcare system. But it could be like, if a person of color says they don't feel good and you are a doctor, listen to that. Don't go, oh, you're fine. So it's like, these are small actions that they seem like small actions, but just listening to someone could save a life. And so we just need to be mindful of that and do that every day. And yes, the work is tiring and exhausting, but the activists who are really doing the real work day in, day out in the trenches, like, they have it way worse. So we can each do our little part.
Thanks for watching. You can watch the full episode of Just Something About Her on The Recount, streaming daily, or listen to it wherever you get your podcasts.